All right, the final topic today. I asked you to come up with a list of the top 10 programs for the next 10 years. Simple as that. You can define this however you want. I would say this looking backwards, we would say UConn was the best program of the last 10 years. Like they had the most national championships. You could make an argument that maybe there's a team with more wins or more pros put out. To me, it's just like who's going to have the best next decade, however you define best, most championships, most conference championships, most pros, combination of the three, whatever you want to call it. So looking forward, it's an interesting time to do this exercise because I think what I realized doing this, there's a lot of coaching fluctuation here, especially if Dan Hurley leaves UConn. Now, maybe we'll get Dan Hurley news over the weekend after this is recorded and we'll sound stupid, but there's kind of a changing of the guard. A lot of legendary coaches are out. Some of the blue bloods are more vulnerable than they have been in a while. So I'm excited to hear your answers for this. Top 10 programs for the next 10 years. You want to start at the top or you want to work backwards here?
Let's start at the top.
Okay. Who's number one?
I had Houston number one for me. I had Houston number one because I think that I think there's continuity with that program. There's playing style continuity. I think that Sampson has shown the ability to like play his style while also being able to like bring in talent through the transfer portal, through five-star kids. He's had Jerace Walker and other players come in the fold. I just think that I feel safe with that program being in a great spot in 10 years and being still in the spot they're at right now.
Okay. I am very confused by that answer for you. That is not where I would have expected Houston to be. I'm not going to spoil my list. I'll work down my list, but they're not one or two or three for me, or four. I have Kansas at one. I think they are the only blue blood that's currently blue blooding. And I think, yes, there are health concerns for Bill Self, but until that takes him off the sidelines, who are we to say they're not going to keep blue blooding? Like, we got to reward that. Kansas is going to stay strong as long as Bill Self is there, and I think he's there for another 10 years.
Kansas was number two for me.
Okay. So you got Houston, then Kansas. I have Kansas at one. I have Alabama at two, Cart. Much like my preseason top 25 poll. I think this is where my next couple on my list speak to the changing of the guard and the coaches that I believe are next up. I believe Nate Oates is going to have a very spectacular 10-year run here. And I don't really think Nate Oates is going to leave Alabama because I think a lot of the blue blood jobs have kind of came and went, and teams that would have hired him didn't hire him. So if he stays at Alabama, I expect a lot of Final Fours. I expect maybe a national championship, always in contention. I think he is that good.
Hmm. Okay. So you had them at two, correct?
I have Alabama at two, yes.
Okay. I had Kansas at two. At three, I had Duke.
Okay, Duke's close for me.
I mean, Shires has, despite what you said, Shire has been very successful his first two seasons. The recruiting is staying strong. They have money. I think he's going to be there for a good amount of time.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. They're on my list closely. So I have a different school at three, and it's much like my Nate Oates belief. I can't believe I'm doing this with Tam McCaffrey. I have Arizona three.
Greg, good on you. I had the same thought. They're at five for me, but I had the same thought. Like I'm buying Tommy Lloyd, like actually maybe being one of the ones.
Yeah, I think there's a group of coaches, which you'll see by the end of my list, that you should believe are like the next up. And I believe right now it's Nate Oates and Tommy Lloyd. The only difference why Nate Oates and Tommy Lloyd are at the top of the list for some of the coaches I would consider next up who are in the middle to bottom of this list is I believe they're at programs that will do anything and will operate like blue bloods. Arizona will operate like a blue blood. Alabama will fundraise and run themselves like a blue blood while Nate Oates is there. Other programs may not do that, and maybe there's some limitations for the coaches who I believe are next up. So, okay, who's at four for you?
I had Bama at my four.
You had Bama at four. I had Duke at four. So we're pretty consensus on the top ones here. Who's five?
I had Arizona at five.
I had Houston at five. So our five are the same, just rearranged orders here.
Okay.
I will just throw this out with Houston. I think the concerns about Bill Self leaving at some point should be there with Kelvin Sampson too. He is older. Like I
Yeah,
think if we're making a list of who might leave in the next decade, Bill Self and Kelvin Sampson would be up there.
true. Okay. I had Purdue at six.
I have Purdue at six.
I don't think Payne's going anywhere, man. And Payne's one of the best in the business.
Purdue is next up. Like that's Paint's in the group with Nate Oates and Tommy Lloyd. Except I think there are some limitations at Purdue. Like if Matt Painter was operating at Arizona the way Tommy Lloyd has free reign to do whatever he wants and pay whoever he wants, um, that would be higher because Painter's coaching acumen is that high, but he runs the program a different way. They don't necessarily have those financial resources, but I mean, this is Purdue's Big Ten right now until proven otherwise, and I think Paint's here for at least 10 more years.
Yeah. Who'd you have it? Let's let you go seven first.
This gets dicey. So I will say after the top six, I thought the top six were non-negotiable. You had to have the top six. From seven on, I had seven schools I thought about. And I really think you could flip a coin and interchange these seven. I landed on North Carolina at seven.
Mm.
I think regardless of concerns or questions with Hubert Davis, blue blood, gonna blue blood. And the Tar Heels program, the brand will speak for itself. He may have some down years here and there. Like he may miss the tournament once or twice. He may struggle with a portal cycle or not land his targets. But then the next year they have as good of a chance as everybody to win a national title because they're North Carolina.
Yeah. I had North Carolina at 8 on my list.
Okay.
I had them at 8 for the same reasons. Even if Hubert does not work out, it's North Carolina. Their next coach is going to be a killer, and they're going to make it great. There's a blue blood boost there. At my number 7 school, I don't think you had this school, but I think that this school is still going to be in a great place. I had Gonzaga at 7.
Wow. I did not have them in consideration for my top.
Mark Few's 61, so he's kind of up there. But like I just don't see him going anywhere. Gonzaga has that brand as well. I just think they're gonna have the continued success. The WCC is getting weaker and weaker. I don't know if they're gonna make a conference move or something like that, but like
So I have a
I'm
very
buying them.
specific reason. Here's my reason I didn't include them. I think Gonzaga is going to get eaten by a different conference. And I think
Mhm.
when that happens, Mark Few may not want to coach during that era. Like, does Mark Few want to coach in the Big 12?
Probably not.
It's hard. Like, I know we're doing a lot of projecting here. They're obviously one of the top 13 programs. They're healthy. He's a great coach. But I think with the way realignment's going, Gonzaga's like historical dominance win every single season is probably not going to run forever. And I think he had his special teams. Jalen Suggs, Chet Holmgren back to back were his special teams. You had a national runner up to show for it. Now it's kind of a reset here. I would have them outside my top 13, probably 14th or 15th.
Okay. I'm not mad at that reasoning. So I told you I had UNC 8th. Who'd you have 8th?
Have UConn at 8, and I'm very curious where you're going to have UConn, man. If we're operating like Hurley leaves, that's fine. This is a program that has won a bunch of national titles under different coaches in the last 4 decades. Like Kamani might be great, Luke Murray might be great. It's UConn. They deserve the same boost North Carolina did.
They're my 9th. It would
Okay.
have been 1 if I knew Hurley was going to be there.
Yeah, me too.
Undisputed. I
Me
had
too.
him at 9 though because of the uncertainty, but I still believe in the program, stores, all that.
Hottest take of this entire exercise. If Hurley leaves for the Lakers, Hurley's coaching UConn again by the end of the decade.
Like he's back
At UConn by the end of the
Ooh,
decade.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not mad at that take.
Yeah.
So I gave you my 8th because it was UNC. You gave me your 9th. I had UConn.
I gave 8th. I haven't given you my ninth.
Okay. So, all
Your
right.
ninth is UConn.
Yes.
My ninth is Baylor. I have Scott Drew. As long as Scott Drew is there, I believe he deserves that bump. And I think he'll be there for the whole. I don't think he's going to leave.
So I didn't have him in. I did not have Baylor listed because I don't think Scott Drew's going to be there.
I don't get why you think he's going to leave after he turned down Kentucky. That would have been the job to leave for.
And I'm still confused why he didn't.
Yeah.
But there's got to be something else we don't know about.
It's that
I don't know.
Mexican restaurant, dog. Like churches in
I
Waco are special. Chip and Joanna Gaines. Like that's to me the whole thing is he didn't leave.
if they left the if he was offered UConn's job, I feel like he'd take it.
He might. I don't think so though.
Okay.
But okay, so if you knew Scott Drew was going to stay for 10 years, would they be on your list?
Yes, 100%.
Where would they be? Would you have them like ninth, like I do, or higher?
No, I'd probably have them like maybe behind Purdue, so like 7th.
Okay, that's not bad. That's a range they belong in for sure. This 10th one could go a variety of different ways. Who you got at 10?
I got BYU.
No way. Come
Time for
on.
the. I'm kidding. I thought about it. The Latter Day
I
Saints are
know we're
good.
the Latter-day Saints, but like, come on.
No, I had Kentucky at 10.
You're gonna have to talk me into this one. They're not on my list.
So it's somewhat of the same reasons that I did for UNC. I think Kentucky's Kentucky. If Mark Pope doesn't work out in 2 years, they're gonna not make the same mistake. They're gonna learn from the mistakes and they're gonna get a killer. If Mark Pope works out, then it's Kentucky and it looks great. Like it's Kentucky at the end of the day.
They are. They should probably be on here. They would be on most people's list. They're not on my list. My fear for Kentucky over the next decade is this. I don't think there's much of a chance Mark Pope is a disaster, but I also don't think there's much of a chance Mark Pope does anything great. And you would almost rather, if you are a blue blood, you would almost rather the guy you hire becomes a disaster than lingers around for 10 years just being okay. Like, let me make one parallel for you. They're not a blue blood, it's a totally different program. Look what has happened to Florida after Billy Donovan left. I think that is on the table here for Kentucky. Like, just okay, fringe top 25 every single year. Are we good? Are we not? I don't know. No crazy tournament runs. That's sort of where I'm at.
Who's your 10?
Now I'm realizing, like, head to head with Kentucky, this is kind of crazy. It's about my next up coaches. I have TJ Otzelberger.
Iowa
I
State.
have Iowa State at 10. I think Otz is going to be that good. I think he's going to be a mainstay in the top 10 every
That's
single year.
I like that. That's a good one. The buyout's massive. I don't know if anyone's getting him away.
Yep.
They're gonna pay him well. I like that. There was one team that almost made my 10 that I thought might make your 10 with the same reason that we just used. What about Indiana?
Back to your point, I feel like you and I danced around this. I can't include Indiana with Woodson. I just can't. I don't believe Woodson's like an obstacle, but he's not close to the top 10 coaches in the sport.
Yeah, that's true.
He's going to be too inconsistent. My the ones that just missed my cut, I had Kentucky. I have Arkansas. I think as long as Cal's there, you have to have them around the top 10. And I actually did have Brad Underwood in Illinois. I think if you could guarantee me Brad stays for 10 years, they would be in my top 10.
Do you think Brad stays for 10 years though?
I don't. But I think there's a chance, and if he does, they would no doubt be a top 10 program in the sport to me.
Okay.
It's a fun exercise.
I like that.
Who do you think gets the most national championships out of that list in the next decade? Like if we were setting, let's call it this way. If we were setting odds on who wins a national championship in the next decade, like Kansas is my number one. Wouldn't Kansas be like minus 200 to win a
Yeah, I
championship?
think the best value on here is Tam McCaffrey.
Arizona like minus 110 to win a national championship?
Maybe even like plus money.
It's interesting. Like what's Alabama's yes or no win a national championship in the next 10 years?
I think, well, yeah, I say yes.
This might need to be a whole topic. I would love to like set fake odds on that and see what happens. It's really fun.